So I don't know that I've ever admitted this to anyone before, but probably the leadership topic that I have probably struggled with most in my career is dealing with problem employees. There are employees that some would view as problematic or disruptive who are actually good for the organization. They may push folks a little bit. They may make folks come out of their comfort zone to stretch their thinking, to stretch outside of their own comfort zones. I don't view those as problem employees necessarily, but I do view folks, and I think every organization needs folks like that to grow. However, folks like that have to not only be managed, but they have to manage themselves as well. You just can't say, I'm a disruptor, I'm an innovator, and just come in and disrupt things. You have to do it in a way that's productive. If you're disruptive to the point where you don't come into work on time, the work you deliver is not of high quality, you continually make the same mistakes, you're disruptive, you don't treat the folks that you work with very well, you don't get along with people. Those are, I think, distinguishing characteristics. Would sort of separate a problem employee that doesn't live up to standards of the organization to I will call disruptor, although it's probably not a good term, because I think there's a way to be a disruptor without being disruptive, and I think you need to watch that line, but I distinguish between those two. My experience in the Air Force and my experience outside the Air Force are completely different in the sense that there are additional hurdles to clear outside the military. So generally in the Air Force, and again, it didn't happen that often because most folks I ran into in the Air Force, even if they were problematic, in most cases you could get their attention, and there are tools to get their attention that you can get them back on the right track. Not always, but in a lot of cases you can. And outside of the Air Force, there are a lot of HR rules. So you start with putting them on a plan, making sure it's your direction is clear, giving them some time. If they're in a protected class, you have to consider that. So there's a few more steps I think you have to deal with if you're outside the military. But nevertheless, I think the key things are the same, and that is, which everybody's heard before, is documentation. So whether you're in the Air Force or not, if someone is not living up to standards, the first thing the supervisor needs to do is to have a conversation with them to make sure that it is clear that they are not living up to standards and why, and what they can do to live up to standards, and then you have to sit down and document it. Because over time, as you start to build this case, you never want to walk into your boss or to HR or anyone and say, this person is not a good fit here, it's not going to work, I want to relieve them from this job. Okay, tell me about that if I'm your boss, and you have, well, I don't have anything, I just want to relieve them. That doesn't work. You need to have some documentation that you've tried your best to get this person on the right track, and that just not there. But documentation and counseling are two things that are really critical. And between those counseling sessions, trying to ferret out, is this person a great worker? In some cases, they may be a good person, may have a lot of talent, but not for this specific job. So in this case, you don't necessarily want to take disciplinary action, but you want to move them to an area that they're more comfortable with, where they will be more successful. Again, I think all of those things you have to take in consideration when dealing with an employee that's not quite working well in your organization.